January 31, 1945. The tropical air over Clark Air Base shimmered under the fierce afternoon light. Major Frank Key McCoy steadied his hands, the camera's metal body warm against his palms. Before him sat a pristine Mitsubishi G4M Betty bomber, tail number 76312. Its skin so smooth and unblemished it seemed untouched by war. The sleek fuselage gleamed like a silver blade beneath the sun, balanced neatly on its landing gear, almost too perfect to be real. There were no bullet scars, no shattered panels, no burned edges. Its engines, twin Nakajima radial types, still shone with fresh oil. But the illusion of perfection broke the moment McCoy peered inside. When he unlatched the access panel and looked within the wings, he froze. The fuel tanks were bare. No rubber lining, no armor, no fire barriers. Only thin aluminum sheets separated thousands of liters of aviation fuel from the outside world. One burst of tracer rounds, and this beautiful machine would erupt like a torch. McCoy had inspected wreckage after wreckage during the Pacific Campaign, but never one this intact. It was a revelation and an indictment. This was not carelessness, it was philosophy, the embodiment of Japan's design logic. Range over safety, speed over protection, sacrifice survival for reach. That one aircraft told the whole story of Japan's air war, from triumph to tragedy. The story of the Betty began long before that day, back on December 8, 1941. As smoke still rose from Pearl Harbor, 82 G4Ms and 26 older G3M bombers roared into the sky from Formosa, heading south. Their objective? Clark Field, the heart of American air power in the Philippines. By midday they arrived. The bombers, flying in precise formation, unleashed devastation from heights unreachable by defending guns. Explosions tore through hangars, fuel depots, and runways. American fighters never got off the ground. Within minutes, 12 of 17 B-17s were reduced to wreckage. Nearly every P-40 fighter was destroyed. In under an hour, the skies over Luzon belonged to Japan. The Betty had made its grand debut. Just 2 days later, the same bomber type changed naval warfare forever. On December 10th, 26 G4Ms armed with torpedoes spotted the British warships Prince of Wales and Repulse near Malaya. Flying low and steady, they attacked in deadly coordination. Within 2 hours, both mighty vessels, symbols of British naval dominance, were sent to the depths. It marked the first time in history that major capital ships were sunk solely by aircraft. The world realized the balance of power had shifted. Through the first months of the war, the Betty seemed untouchable. From their bases, they struck Darwin in Australia, more than 1,500 miles away. They attacked Port Moresby and Guadalcanal, places previously beyond enemy reach. The bombers' unmatched range made it the spearhead of Japan's advance. As long as no fighters could intercept them, they reigned supreme. But that invincibility was an illusion, and it shattered abruptly in 1942. On August 8 of that year, 23 Bettys took off from Rabaul to hit American positions at Guadalcanal. They were met by American Wildcats. The result was slaughter. Within minutes, 18 Bettys were gone, shot out of the sky in fiery arcs that trailed smoke into the sea. Surviving pilots described how just a handful of bullets could turn their aircraft into a flaming wreck. A single hit to the wings and the fuel tanks exploded. Allied pilots began to call them cruel names: the Flying Zippo, the One-Shot Lighter, the Flying Cigar. By the end of 1942, the Betty's legend of invulnerability was dead. For its own crews, the plane had become a nightmare. Allied engineers later confirmed the awful truth while studying wrecks in New Guinea and the Solomons. The G4M had no fuel protection whatsoever, no armor, no self-sealing tanks. It was, in every sense, a death trap. American aircraft, even the early bombers like the B-17, carried self-sealing fuel tanks, rubber-layered bladders that swelled when punctured to stop leaks. The extra weight made them slower, yes, but they survived hits that would have doomed any Betty. Japan's engineers had deliberately omitted these defenses to save weight. When McCoy's team disassembled the captured Betty at Clark in 1945, the numbers told the full story. The bomber weighed just under 7 tons, astonishingly light. Its operational range exceeded 6,000 kilometers, further than any bomber on Earth. But to reach that range, it carried nearly 5,000 liters of fuel in 8 completely unprotected tanks. It could travel farther than any rival aircraft, but only once. To grasp why such a machine existed, one must return to 1937. Japan's Navy wanted a bomber capable of flying 4,700 kilometers while still carrying torpedoes or heavy bombs. The Empire's ambitions stretched across the Pacific, and they needed something that could strike distant targets without relying on aircraft carriers. The task fell to Mitsubishi's Kuro Honjo, a visionary engineer who knew that physics left him no forgiveness. Every kilogram mattered. Armor was heavy. Rubber was heavy. Survival systems were heavy. To meet the Navy's range demand, something had to go. Honjo made the fateful decision: no self-sealing tanks, no armor plating, no protection. The prototype flew in 1939, sleek and swift, meeting every specification. By 1941, it entered production as the Navy Type 1 attack bomber, the G4M. At first, it seemed like a masterpiece. Its range and speed made it the envy of every Air Force. But within a year, the design's fatal trade-offs became impossible to ignore. At first, the aircraft was celebrated as an engineering marvel. Pilots praised its responsiveness, its ability to carry torpedoes or bombs deep into enemy territory, and the way its twin engines purred like well-tuned instruments. But by 1943, the price of that brilliance was being paid in blood. Allied air power grew sharper, faster, and more coordinated. Fighters like the F-6F Hellcat and P-38 Lightning began to dominate the skies. The Betty, once the hunter, became the hunted. Japanese aircrews knew the truth. They were climbing into coffins every time they took off. They called the bomber Hamaki, the cigar, not as a mark of affection, but because of how it burned. When hit, its long cylindrical fuselage would ignite instantly, turning night skies into grotesque fireworks. Mitsubishi engineers tried to respond. Later production models added a small armor plate behind the pilot seat and replaced the nose glazing with thicker glass. It made little difference. The Betty's core weakness, its unprotected fuel tanks, remained. The cruelest confirmation of that flaw came on April 18, 1943, during a mission so secret it was coded under Operation Vengeance. That morning, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, the mastermind of Pearl Harbor, was flying in a G4M from Rabaul to Bougainville to inspect forward units. The Americans had cracked the Japanese naval cipher. 16 P-38 Lightnings took off from Guadalcanal, racing over 400 miles of ocean to intercept him. At 9:35 a.m., they spotted the formation. 2 Betty bombers escorted by 6 Zero fighters. The P-38s dove in. Captain Thomas Lanfear Jr. and Rex Barber opened fire. Yamamoto's Betty, hit in the right engine, instantly caught fire. The flames spread through the wing and into the fuselage in seconds. The aircraft rolled inverted and plunged into the jungle. No one survived. The second bomber tried to evade, but it too went down minutes later. Not a single crewman escaped the inferno. The death of Yamamoto shocked Japan, but to Allied analysts, it was proof of what they already knew. One bullet through a Betty's wing meant certain death. By mid-1943, the Betty's reputation had sunk. Even Japanese fighter pilots pitied the crews who flew them. Yet the Navy still needed long-range bombers. Production continued, desperate, endless, and futile.
Through late 1943 and into 1944, Betty units fought losing battles across the Pacific. At Rabaul, at Truk Lagoon, and across the Marianas, waves of them were wiped out by American fighters before they reached their targets. To the pilots of the U.S. Navy, they were easy kills. To the men inside, they were flying crematoriums. Survivors often described the eerie calm inside the cockpit. The slightest tracer hit the wing, and within moments, a hiss of vapor would fill the cabin. Fuel leaking, catching, and erupting in an orange wall of flame. Many didn't even have time to bail out. They simply vanished in the explosion. By 1944, Japanese strategists knew that the Betty could no longer survive daylight raids. They adapted the aircraft for night operations, reconnaissance, and transport. Some were even stripped down to carry suicide rockets or explosives, turning them into weapons of last resort. When American